Hi, hello there. Welcome back to Coding 101. On this video demonstration, I'm going to show you how to use classes in a C++ program. On this video demonstration, I'm going to show you how to apply classes on our rectangle problem. So for the problem statement, to create a C++ program that would ask the user to enter the length and the width of a rectangle, display the area and perimeter, use functions to handle user input, computing the area and the perimeter, use class implementation. Okay, let's start with our demonstration for a class. Let me use the code. Okay, so our problem rectangle here. Okay, so let me use the last code that we used on the demonstration, which is struct demo01. Okay, now for this program, we are going to implement classes. Okay, so instead of having the structures there, so we are going to use classes. Okay, so we will be needing some modification on this program. So let me close the workspace here. Okay, and then let me save this as, say this would be class demo01 .cpp. All right, so we will be using the same problem. Okay, this time the implementation have to be with class. All right, so we don't need the rectangle here. So let me remove this. So what are the modifications that we need to do here? So let me remove also this one. Okay, let me start with the class definition. Okay, so for the class definition, that is exactly the same as structure. The only difference is there is no member function in a structure. Okay, so we are using the keyword class. Let's use the name rectangle. Okay, begin. So this is our class declaration. Okay, so first on the class, we have to declare a variable. So usually the member variables in a class are set to be private. So let's have that one private. Okay, say I'm going to have double. Okay, so we have two parameters for the rectangle, right? That's the length and the width. Okay, so private there is a access modifier, so it's either private or public. Okay, so since we are starting classes, let us use private and public. Okay, so the next one is public. Usually the functions, okay, or the member functions of a class is declared as public so that we can use it all throughout the program. Okay, and since length and width here are private or declared as private, this can only be used, modified, and set by a member functions. So if the function is not a member function of a class, it has no capability to modify or to call this value length and width here. Okay, so since based on the problem, so we will be using functions to handle user inputs, computing the area and the perimeter. So we are going to declare it as member of the class rectangle. Okay, so let me use the existing function that we used on the structure and in the previous demonstrations. So this time I have to include it as a member of my class. Okay, so void ask user. All right, so let's say we'll have this. Next would be double get area. Okay, so these are the member functions, and another function which is double. Okay, and then get perimeter. All right, so and then end All right. So these three here are the member functions. Okay. And of course, still we have here the member data or member variable. All right. So, okay. So next thing is we need to remove this function prototypes here. This was from the structure. Okay, so let's have it on the main function. Okay, so we already have deleted the content. Next would be, we need to implement the member functions. Now, the implementation of the member function is somehow different than the demonstrations that we used, okay? And this one, okay, so let me change this, okay? So this should be ask user here. So when you define a function or a member function, you have to include the name of the class. So that is, the name of the class is rectangle. Okay. You've got the scope resolution operator and then the name of the function, which is ask user. So we don't have parameter there. So let me remove this. Okay. So the content should be enter the length. Okay, and then enter the width. So same. All right. So let me compile this. Yes, yes. So this is class demo01. All right. So the next thing is let's check our get area. So the get area, again, there should be the name of the class there, scope resolution operator. You've got the get area. We don't need this. Okay, so you'll have that get area, and then so this time we don't have length and W here, so this is an undeclared identifier. So take note that get area here is a member of a class, and therefore this function or member function get area has an access to the length and the width. Okay, so same thing with the ask user because they are within the same class. So therefore I would have here, so area is equals to, okay, we could call on the length times the width. All right. So we already have a value set on the length and width because of the ask user. Okay. So next would be get perimeter. Now let's get into the get perimeter function again. When we declare a member function, the name of the class should be included. We've got the scope resolution operator, the function. So we don't need this. Okay. So the formula for the perimeter is twice the length. Okay, so let's have the length there since length and width are member data. Okay. So length, twice the length plus twice the width. Okay. Now, let's go back to our main function. Okay. So on our main function, we have to declare, okay, a variable whose data type is rectangle. All right. So let's say that is rectangle and then rect. So I have created here a variable rect whose data type is a rectangle. Okay, so rect is also known as object. So I have created here an object, okay, whose data type is a rectangle. Okay, now these functions here in object-oriented programming is what you call methods. Okay, so we have created an object named rect, okay, and therefore rect, being a data type of rectangle, has an access to this public member functions here. Take note that rect doesn't have any access on the length. Okay, if you try to access the length, let's say we have here something like rect dot length, okay, equals 5, just to show you. Okay, so you've got additional error there. So we still have L and W Okay, so we failed to change that. Where is that? LNW undeclared identifier. So this should be length here. Okay. And this should be width here. Okay. Now, we've got an error here. Take note that rect.length, okay, so cannot access private member declared in a class rectangle, because the only functions that can modify or call the length and width here are these functions: ask user, get area, and get perimeter, since this is declared as private. Okay, so we need to have the concept here of data encapsulation. Okay, so we need to protect these member variables or member data by setting it to private. Okay, now, so as what I'm saying, we cannot access the length, so therefore we will be using a class to do that. Okay, so let's call on our ask user. So since we have defined here an object rect, so you've got rect dot, okay, ask user. Okay, so with this one, it means that we will be calling the ask user. All right, so when you have this, okay, ask user, so when we run this one, it will call on the function ask user. So enter the length, say 5 with 2. Okay, now what we're going to do next is to pass this value to another function to compute the area and the perimeter. Let's do that. Okay, so next would be rect dot get area. Okay, so that would compute the area, and rect dot get perimeter, that would compute the perimeter. Okay, so let's try to run this. So take note that we were able to access ask user, get area, and get perimeter because these are all set as public. Okay, so let's run this one. Okay, we still have one error, perimeter. Okay, okay, so run. We'll have this, enter length, say 5, enter width 2. So that would yield area 10 and perimeter 14. Okay, so that's exactly the same output that we have without using class, okay, without using structure. Okay, so you've got the same output but different implementation. So this one here uses a class. Okay, now let me go back to this. What will happen if I change it to private? Or simply, let's just remove this because anything that follows is private. So when we run this, you've got 3 errors. Okay, so all of this are set to be private and you cannot use those. Okay, so let's bring it back to the original form. The rule of thumb here is basically, so remember that when you declare a member function, the access modifier should be public and the member data should be private. Okay, so that's the concept behind the class implementation. So see you on the next video. We will be implementing this program using a constructor. See you on the next video. Have a great day.